there.
Ready.
My name's Matt with Advanced Inverter Services. I'm here to do some training on the VFDs. We have two different types of VFDs out here. There's a Toshiba Q9 and also Armstrong IVS pumps. Any questions on any of that?
IVS is a brand of the VFD.
It's actually a Danfoss VFD.
Danfoss.
But it's got Armstrong programming in it, and Danfoss does not sell that actual pump. But we're not actually using that particular programming out here. It's being controlled on a BMS system through Modbus.
There's been some question on why they use Toshiba, and then on the other pumps why they use the drive that sits on the pump.
Now, I couldn't really explain that to you.
Uh-huh.
That's all
No,
depending on your on who's purchasing and so on and so forth.
What's the benefit on having the drive on the pump?
Well, those are IVS pumps, so they were set up to do actual sensorless pumping, but like I said, we're not using that. We're using through the BMS system. The other ones are just Armstrong pumps with the VFDs
When you
separate.
say sensorless, so it doesn't have, how does that work if it uses?
Well, it's pretty complicated on how it all works, the sensorless programming. It's all about math and the amps, the flow, the voltage.
So it can tell you the flow?
It could if it was doing sensorless, but we're not doing any of that.
Okay.
The programming, the Armstrong programs the IVS pumps and actually puts the pump curve inside the VFD.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
then
So at a given amp draw, it knows the flow?
it knows the flow and it
Oh, okay.
figures it out. That's called sensorless. But your application requires is it BMS driven? It's a sensor version of it. So there's inputs coming into the VFD to tell the VFD where to be. But because the package comes one way or the other, this happens to be a censored version of a sensorless type. So it's just a simplistic version.
So, anything else?
How are those holding up outside in the field?
Actually, very
Guys'
well.
Experience.
Very,
Cooling fans and all of that.
yeah, very well, very well.
How long have they been out in this configuration?
Well, this configuration's, what has it been, 3 years?
About 3 years now.
And but it's the same drive that they've had for about 6 years.
Right.
The only difference is the programming in it.
The unit is exactly, if you're Dan-Foss, there's no difference. The only difference is what they're able to put inside the proprietary program inside the VFD, the pump curve information versus the non-pump curve information. That really is the only difference between them. There's no other physical, electrical characteristics that are different.
Mm-mm.
The sensorless ones are nice for, if you don't have any controls. I mean, you put the pump curves in there and then it handles itself.
But when you have a BMS system, you want to actually run it through that
You wanna
because
see
now you want to have full control over it, not it doing what it wants to do.
Right.
But it works great whenever you don't have a system.
How much water can they take? Like, they're weatherproof?
Oh, as far as those go, yeah, they're washed down. They're NEMA 4X.
Even the screen and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're made so you could actually go and hose them off.
What was the thought of the little sunscreen? What prompted that design into it?
Well, that's just part of the NEMA 4X enclosure that they have for that box. It's just kind of a weather guard to help out a little bit there.
Yeah. We've had to do that with a lot of equipment just to keep the equipment cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so our thought was, well, maybe they had the same thing going on and these things are overheating.
No, and basically they are supposed to be able to run in 104 degree ambient temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every drive is set up for that. They can actually, if they're not running full load, they can actually run a little bit hotter than that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and normally, you're not always running full load. So
Sure.
So what happens at 108?
It's just a, you know what, they're taking these drives and they're sitting them down there in Palm Springs where it's 120.
Right.
We're not having any issues out there. They're just stating that it's
It's gonna last a lot longer if it stays in.
right. It's easier on it. The lower the degrees, the easier it is on the drive.
So if we end up with a VFD failure, usually nowadays you just change out the drive, you don't do components. So because it's engineered and designed by Armstrong, we have to buy the drive from you that's already been programmed for the application.
Well, yeah, and that would be the case if it was a sensorless unit. Yeah, you would, and it failed. You'd call me and they'd send it a brand
Well, I
new
mean,
program.
it's a
But right now,
censored unit.
right now,
so-
it's sensor. So you just call me and they'll send you a new drive.
Yeah, okay. So it'll already be programmed for input, I/O, all of that, because it is censored?
Well, the configuration file that Matt puts in them, right, would have to be transferred from
From
one drive to the other.
Which it is already in the keypad.
Right. So they take the
Right.
keypad,
Keypad's transferable?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
which is what he just did earlier.
Okay.
Right.
Good. Good.
Right. Now the Toshiba ones, they don't have a transferable keypad like that, you know. And but yeah. And as far as you're saying, they kind of call them throwaways, but that's only a certain size.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the Danfoss are like 30 horsepower or something, and below are what they consider throwaway.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think Toshiba's somewhere in that neighborhood
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, pretty much all of them are in
Yeah,
that range.
actually, some of the other ones are actually almost up to 100 now,
Yeah.
where you can't repair them, throw them away.
So with that in mind, getting a brand new unit off the shelf, usually there's some information plugged into it that we will have to do, or if it comes already pre-programmed for that.
Well, the way that works on the sensorless is it comes pre-programmed sensorless.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is drop the parameters out of that keypad that's there into the drive. You should be up and running.
So we don't go to a vendor and say we have a Danfoss model number this and buy that drive. We have to buy it from you because of that.
Right.
Right.
From vertical.
From vertical systems, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're not the only person that reps Armstrong, right?
The Red Armstrong, yes, here in California, in Southern California.
You're in.
Yeah. Yep. Now, I know what you're saying. I mean, because there are other people up there rep, because you can get mechanical seals from someone
So
else.
you do all
besides
the
me.
Southern-
We do all.
Southern
There's
California.
you can get seals and mechanic from. There are other vendors out there that can supply you that stuff, right? But as far as program drives and complicated endeavor systems, yeah, then you have to come through us.
As long as we know that.
Yeah.
Is it off the shelf for you guys?
Some stuff's off the shelf, not a whole lot.
The
Unfortunately.
drive specifically.
No, you have to go. We'd have to go back to Armstrong, but they're off the shelf in Armstrong.
If those units go down for any length of time,
What's your turnaround if we
Situation.
needed a drive? And you
It's
just,
secondary pumps.
Couple
It
days. You
has
have
a
two.
backup?
There's a backup, but it's a couple
oh.
days. We
But
can-
yeah.
you're not looking at 2 weeks.
No,
That's
no,
the
no,
whole
no.
plant right there.
Yeah.
As
Oh.
a matter of fact, we need to go turn that up a little bit.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready to go outside?
Yeah. Dad,
You are
good.
Blocked in, blocked in.
Dad, you see
Okay,
Dad's
ready?
worried.
Okay, so these are the Toshiba drives that we were talking about earlier. And what we have to start with is we have a temperature sensor down here. Usually you want to have that set to around 90 degrees. Don't want to go over that because in the mornings, if it turns on and it's pulling cool air into it with moisture in it and stuff like that, you don't really want to have that coming in. So 90 degrees is a good set temperature for it, 85 maybe. But these are the drives. It's a pretty straightforward cabinet. You have your disconnect, your drive, and got the input filter. And the way these drives are done is they're done with a PID. So it's checking the pressure and it's coming over here, and the drive has a set point, and you're setting the set point in your BMS system. So you can change the set point that way. So otherwise they do everything else on their own. If you put it in hand, you're changing the set point with the hand controls. You're not actually setting it to run at a certain speed. You're setting, you're manually putting the drive on, and it's running off of the PID. So when you change the speed, you're actually changing the set point. Okay, so just so nobody gets confused on that and come out here and say, well, I just told it to run 30 hertz, but it's only running 19. Well, 30 hertz is 50% of what the sensor is. Okay, does everybody understand that part of it? Now you got 4 of these Toshibas on here, and 2 of them are running over there on the cooling tower. Same thing, they're set up with PID also, and you're only changing the set point on those with the BMS system. Or if you come in hand, you're changing it here. Now, I don't know, can you see the buttons on here pretty well? Okay, in order to come and change this into hand, you put it into local, and then you press the run. Okay, that puts it into hand mode. So if the local light is on, it's in hand mode. Now, the way you change the set point is you press the keypad, you dial it. You dial the keypad around, you can see up here, it's changing the set point. You press the keypad in, or the dial in, and that sets the set point. And that's where the drive has to run up to that. Any other questions on how these work? They're pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you do have a fault on your keypad, you press the reset button here. Most faults will reset with that button. Some faults are hard faults to where it won't reset it, and you have to cycle power to it.
So you push the local remote button, and the light comes on.
The little light comes on.
And
you
it
can
just
look in there.
doesn't stay on right now?
Yeah, it's on right now.
No, but and then the run light comes on.
And then the run light will come on, but it'll be green. If it's green, it's not. You haven't pressed the run button yet. So then when you press the run button, it changes it to red. And now
that's in manual.
Now you know it's running.
In manual.
In manual, yes.
Okay, and then auto, how do you put it?
Auto, you just press the local remote button where that light goes out, and it goes into auto.
Does the run button stay red or green?
A lot of times what it does is it'll drop all the way down, shut off, and then it comes right back up. If it's got a run command.
So the red run button goes to green when it's in remote.
Yeah. Actually, it will go
when
back.
It's in auto, when they're controlling it from the BMS.
It'll go to red when it's actually turning that motor. It'll go to red.
Oh, okay.
The green run button means it's ready to run when you tell it to.
Okay.
And if you put it in local remote, it'll be green because it's waiting for you to tell it run.
Okay.
And so we hit run, turns red, turns it on.
And now you know that it's turning the motor when it turns red. Any other questions about them?
When they first installed these got wet. Did these get replaced?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, they were soaking wet. So
Yeah, I don't know what all the whole deal is. here to do training.
Sure, no, I understand. I just wasn't sure if you knew that or not.
Seem to be doing everything they're supposed to do, so.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. This is your mod bus coming into it. This is your 4 to 20 coming from the sensor. And both drives have the same thing.
Is that done?
What's that?
I guess that'd be more for construction management. Is that done, or is that just hooked up, kind of hanging there temporarily like that?
Yeah.
Person to ask, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there again, I didn't install it. I'm just giving you training on them.
Sure. Understood.
So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff at the bottom. A lot of stuff.
That temperature sensor you said is set at 90. What is that doing? What is that doing?
It's a heater.
There's a heater on?
Actually, that's the heater, so there is no fan on these.
No fan on them, right?
So yeah, you want to keep that heater down there, down low. I'm sorry, that actually is a heater. It's not the fan cooling system. So you want to keep that down probably around, yeah, 15, 20 degrees is fine where it's at. Probably never use the heater out here.
Well, actually we do in the winter because things condensate.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
keep the cabinets warm.
Yeah, take it to 40 then.
Yeah. Is there fans that we need to be concerned about on
The fans are in the back of the drive. They're outside, so that's why there is no fan on the cooling inside here. It's all on the back.
We had these same units at another location, and we had a lot of trouble with the fans, the cooling fans, having to change them out. And,
On the Toshiba Q9?
yeah, it has comes through the cabinet with the heat sink on the back, and then the fans are right on the top, right?
Fans are on the bottom of these, I
We
believe.
ended up buying a whole stock of fans because we kept losing the fans on.
Really? We haven't seen many problems with the Toshiba. I don't know. Was it an environment? Was it? It wouldn't run without them. Are you sure you're not talking about a VTAC? Oh yeah, it's for sure it's going to be that. But like some of the VTAC ones, if the fan quits, period, the drive won't. It just shuts the drive off right there.
Yeah, no, these would go down on, just because they weren't stripping the heat. It was.
And it was the Q9?
I don't remember the exact number, but it's the same design of these where they protrude outside the back of the cabinet.
Right.
To get rid of the
But it might have been a different drive.
No, it was Toshiba.
It was?
Yeah, definitely. But it was a real struggle because, we were losing them left and right.
Huh.
Maybe it was just a bad design at that time. You really improved it.
Yeah. Good possibility. I
It might
mean,
have been environment too.
yeah. Well, sometimes environment, especially close to the ocean and stuff, is where we have some issues.
Yeah.
But we really haven't seen very many fan issues with the Q9.
Okay.
That's their latest version, right?
It's the latest version, yes. Yep. We've seen a few problems with the Q7, but that was in a very small horsepower range, and it was usually on a generator test is where we had a little bit of an issue on that. But otherwise, the Q7 was a pretty stout unit too, and we really haven't seen anything wrong with these guys. Small, big, whatever. Nothing abnormal. So, everybody good? Okay. We ready? All right. Now this is the Armstrong IVS series that we were talking about earlier, and we're running this on the BMS system, not the sensorless. This one's a little different than the Toshiba. It has your hand button here, your off button, your auto button, and your reset button. The same thing as far as the resetting of faults. You have different faults that'll reset with this. There's a few of them that probably we're going to have to cycle power if you get a fault for it. This drive here actually has a disconnect on it, so you can cycle power right from this disconnect. Now, when you're going to hand mode on this one, you press hand mode, it will start from right where it was running at on this drive. Then you can scroll from side to side here, telling it to go faster or slower. You have your menu buttons, you have your alarm log right here. Very simple to get to, the alarms and whatnot. It's pretty straightforward though. So, any questions on these?
Like the single input button, you know, it's not a button that does multiple functions. In the middle of the night, that can be really confusing. So single button, that's great.
Yeah, this is actually a really pretty nice keypad that they've got here. A lot of times it's what you get used to using too. It makes it simple.
When that cover comes off, the disconnect has to be an off.
Yes, it does.
Is there a way to defeat that?
No.
It has to go off.
Yeah. Yeah, this one does not have a defeating mechanism on it at all. And then remember, if you do turn it on with the cover off, you have to turn it back off to get the cover back on. So, and then also on these, and even on those, the Toshibas that I did not point out over there, but this is the address, the baud rate are written on the side of the drive. So if you did have a problem, at least you got that set up ready to go. That's written on the side of the panel next to the drive on the Toshibas also.
These are the ones that I'd like to see us have. Maybe I'm sitting on the shelf or
The problem with having spares sitting on the shelf, your warranty's clicking as it's sitting there on your shelf.
Plus they go with the new version, so you just turn it over. That's the year old thing.
Yeah. And no,
we're more worried about getting that facility cooled down or warmed up.
but I think you're sitting on redundancy with 1 and 2 drive. So you're only talking about probably the max 5 days? Max. I mean, it can be overnighted and stuff. So a couple days is what you're looking at downtime wise. So and huh?
Sorry, what? The fan. The fan?
Yeah, the fans underneath right here. So with this nice boxing, you actually have to pull the drive off to change that fan. But one thing with the drives, it really should be checked and cleaned annually. All the connections should be tightened, so on and so forth.
And you see this stuff that's floating around here. Are the fins inside the drive big enough to allow that to flow through the fan, or
well,
they're
pretty good size. You can look up here on the top of it and see the fins coming through.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
But nevertheless, you know, I mean, some bird feathers and so on and so forth, and pretty soon it's clogged up. So yeah. So it definitely should be an annual thing. Blowing this out with nitrogen. As far as inside the drive, it stays fairly clean, but still the connections need to be tightened and so on and so forth with that. As far as the pumps go,
Yeah, we talked about the pump standard. There's no difference in the pumps with the ones we talked about. They're close coupled, vertical inlines, no greasing, no lubing. There's no difference in that small pump. I thought there was a difference, but there isn't. It's exactly the same kind of pump. It has the same water line. It goes from the pump back to the mechanical seal to keep it water in it. So there's no difference in the pumps. Obviously, just size of the mechanical seals are different, but pump functionality, there's no difference in either pump. And we were talking about sensorless, right? In your application, you have BMS, but in the sensorless application, this thing would sit here without any automation, and it would control itself. So there's pros and cons for both sensorless and non-sensorless.
Do we have the model serial numbers and the equipment data?
Right here, inside.
Get it on the outside?
The insider's never going on the outside.
I mean, do you have the serial numbers?
You know what, in the, yeah, someone has it. Yeah. Let's show you the actual model serial number right now. Yeah. Most of the time, it's little, we'll put it out here, a placard out here, but it's not always the case.
So do we have any other questions or anything?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.